Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey and today we are going to do a full review of a book I recently read, Maeve Fly by CJ Leede. This book is not for the faint of heart. I warn you now. If you have triggers, this book will have them, and I'll see you in the next one. This one is rough, you guys. This book was wild, and it's, people say it's like an American Psycho for the girlies, and I would pepper in a little bit of Marquis de Sade on top of that. Like, she's a debaucherous bitch. So it's not very long if you have any interest in reading it. It's just under 300 pages. And before I get into maybe shredding this book apart, I did enjoy it. Just a little disclaimer, I did enjoy this book. I found it very entertaining, although incredibly disturbing. Curling irons, grilled cheese, and eggs are forever ruined for me personally. So I'm going to break this down. All the spoiler warnings, I am going to get into everything. So if you don't want this book spoiled for you, I totally understand if you just want to catch me in the next video. So let's get started. Just to give you a little bit of sense of how this entire book is going to flow, allow me to read a select passage. Life is fleeting and meaningless, and crying to be seized from behind and fucked into obscurity. That is, we are off to the races, folks. That will be the tone of the book. I warn you now. So in Maeve Fly, we have a few main characters that I'll introduce from the start and then more as we go in. Maeve Fly is our main character. She is a young woman who lives with her grandmother and is separated from her parents. She doesn't really give us a backstory on that other than her parents really just didn't understand her. She works in a totally not Disney amusement park. There's a lot of Disney in here, but you can't just say everything Disney when you put a murder book out.
Now, do we have a problem? No, sir. No, Mr. Mouse. No, Mr. Mouse.
So she is an ice queen in a not Disney park, in an amusement park in California. She plays an ice queen with an annoying sidekick sister who is played by her best friend Kate, and Kate is an aspiring actress paying her dues to make it big in Hollywood. Our third character is Tallulah Maeve. She is Maeve's grandmother, and we see most of her and Maeve's interactions through flashbacks. Maeve's grandmother, Tallulah, is in a comatose state and dying. I think it's cirrhosis of the liver. She has some kind of disease like that, and Maeve has WebMD'd this and figured out that, her grandmother should have 3 years to live, and she figures it's about 3 years until Kate hits her big break. So she has 3 years until the two people she loves most on the planet fuck off and leave her alone. So we start off with Maeve and Kate on shift at the theme park in costume. They're with kids and, taking pictures, and they're the most popular exhibit. I don't know if that's the right word. They're the most popular attraction, the most popular princesses, and kids are in and out, and, they're really acclaimed for what they do. They do a really good job, despite everything wrong with Maeve, all her depravity, her macabre, her darkness. She loves playing her ice princess, ice queen. She feels that this ice queen is different from all the other princesses. She feels like she is, a villainess who had to hide who she was until she couldn't take anymore. She bursted out of that, and that's why Maeve really connects with the Ice Princess and as a character in general. So we catch up. We catch up with Kate and Maeve, and they're on their break from their attraction, and they are doing bumps in the locker room. And they are met by Liz. Liz is kind of their princess supervisor, who is kind of holier than thou, hoity-toity, no stuck in the air, no funsies. And she's like, I'm going to report you to corporate, yada yada. This is not princess behavior. And, Maeve's like, oh, she's just jealous because she has big boobs and can't fit into the costume anymore. Fuck her. Kate has some kind of dirt on Liz and is like, oh yeah, you're going to report us to corporate for this? So you remember that thing that I know? I'm going to report you for that. And Liz fucks off. So put a pin in that for later. It will come back up. At this point, we get a flashback of when Kate and Maeve were hired to the park. And in their orientation room, there's a batch of actors who have been hired to play these various roles in the park. and some random bitch just like comes up to Maeve and like pours her iced coffee on her, and rather than like freak out or start a fight, Maeve just like stares at her super creepy. And eventually this girl is like, what a fucking weirdo, and goes and sits back down and is like, what the fuck is wrong with this girl? Is she gonna like eat me? What the hell? And Kate is in the same room and she's like, I vibes with that. So she catches up to Maeve at the end of orientation and is like, yo, we going to get drinks or what? And a friendship is born. So after her shift at the park, Maeve goes home to her grandmother's house, which is a beautiful house in the hills overlooking the strip. And so she turns on a weird ass video of a wolf eating a rabbit. She turns on Billie Holiday. She turns on some gay porn, some BDSM man-on-man porn, and she gets the flick in her bean, right? But at the same time, she's texting Susan, and Susan is a woman she has befriended via the internet, and Susan is a MAGA-type woman who has very conservative Christian values and all that bullshit, and she's talking to Maeve, and they're going back and forth about how their neighborhood's not safe, people here that don't belong here, quote unquote. And Maeve is using an alias. She's under the name Trixie, posing as a different person. She's like, hey, what if hypothetically I was part of an organization that could get rid of this problem? And Susan's like, I'm in. And Maeve goes back and screenshots all that shit, months and months of conversations, posted it on Reddit, posted the conversations, her address, her picture, everything, and throws Susan on blast and is like, yeah, bitch, it's canceled. And meanwhile, she is masturbating to ruining Susan's life and is successful at doing so. So after her Susan masturbation massacre, she goes walking around on the strip, just something she does a lot, and she's in between like two bookstores or whatever that she frequents, and for whatever reason she checks in a bush, she sees something there, she pulls it out like through the ivy, and it's a really fucking weird fucked up ass doll. And it's a weird ass doll. It's got an alligator body and a doll head, and it's got a Marquis de Sade quotation written on it. It's a doll's head. This newly arrived thing without hair and with one eyelash missing, attached carefully and lovingly to a plastic toy alligator body by a dark red substance I know instinctively to be blood. I reach in and gently extract it from its thorny nest. I cradle the little family as though it were made of glass or something even more precious and fragile. A single human hair is wound and tied around its neck. On its belly, scrawled in letters of the same red, it says, in order to know virtue. Now, this is a quote from the Marquis de Sade that reads, in order to know virtue, we must first acquaint ourselves with vice. And for some reason, she's like, this is amazing, but super creepy at the same time. I'm gonna put this shit back. So she returns the doll to its hiding spot, but is super creeped out, disturbed by the presence of this doll, which should not be there. So she ends up going out with Kate that night. They meet up at a strip club. Kate is accompanied by a director named Derek that she's banging to get a part in his movie, and her little brother, Gideon, whom we get to meet. Gideon is a hockey player. He was recently transferred to Los Angeles to be on the team there, and I have a brother. This is not how you introduce people to your brother. So after mistaking Derek for Gideon, Kate makes it a point to show, like, this isn't my brother, and, like, makes out with Derek, shoves her tongue in his mouth and stuff, like, right in front of Maeve. And then she's like, so, not the brother, I say. No, a lower voice says from over my shoulder, I'm a much better kisser. And Kate squeals and springs out of the booth, leaping into the arms of a very large man standing beside me, planting a firm but mostly familial kiss on his mouth. Blech. And, Maeve has no interest in meeting Derek, no interest in meeting Gideon. She is ever the social butterfly and pulls out a book and starts reading in the strip club. And let me just tell you, I have known many, many dancers They would be so pissed if you're sitting at a booth by a pole and reading and not tipping. They would be angry. Don't be a dick. Don't do that. So Kate and Derek fuck off to the bathroom to fuck off, and Gideon gets, all harumph about it because his little sister is like degrading herself, or big sister. Yeah, his big sister is degrading herself in the bathroom with this director banging this dude in the bathroom for a part in a movie, and it really pisses him off. More so than like normal brother level, like possessive, creaky level. And Maeve and Gideon, they like chit-chat a little bit. He's trying to start conversation, but she's got fuck off stamped on her forehead firmly, and he's not getting it. They are not having a good conversation, and an earthquake thankfully cuts in, breaks up the conversation, and we don't have to hear any more of their bullshit, right? Next day, we go back to the park with Maeve, and a new corporate overlord has descended upon her kingdom of ice, and his name is Andre, and he wears tracksuits and mouse ears all the time. It is impossible to take him seriously as a large, fully adult man walking around with mouse ears that's supposed to be criticizing you. And he pulls Kate and Maeve into an office and is like, oh, you guys do really great for the park, yada yada, for all your hard work. Here's $20 gift cards to the food court. Don't use it on drinks. And it's like, that is so corporate. That is just such a no raise, just $20 gift cards. They're like, bro, go fuck yourself. After work, Maeve goes looking for the doll again in the bushes, but it is gone. It has been removed. And then later, Kate texts her, like, hey, come to this party. She goes to this random-ass engagement party, and this party is weird. And who would be at this engagement party? Gideon. He interrupts her conversation with a couple who is talking to her about putting hands in asses because the woman is a proctologist and she met her fiance here by putting her hand up his ass in an appointment, and apparently he was like, cool, let's go to dinner, and somehow that worked out. But like, it's super weird because not only do they have this meet cute story of her hand in his ass, he's like, yeah, we have this group chat with my buddies where we send each other videos of us shitting. And he like shows her these, who would do that? He like shows her 4 of the videos before Gideon pops up and like saves her from a horrible fate of watching more shit videos. At some point, there's another earthquake. I've never been to LA. I don't know how often earthquakes hit, but another earthquake hits. Maeve is like fainting, collapsing, and what does she do? When somebody's standing behind you and you like faint, collapse, maybe you grab onto their arms or something. No, she grabs his dick. In the process of her falling, she drops her book that she was reading at the party for some reason. She drops her book, she drops her phone. He picks up her phone, types some shit in it, and hands it back to her. But then she notices that her book is on the ground and has flipped open to an annotated page. She has annotated the shit out of this book. And it opens up to a page that he ought not be seeing, right? She gets all huffy and puffy, snatches her book back, like, asked her, like, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go somewhere. And she's like, no thanks, fuck off. And she fucks off herself. She gets outside and she's like, oh, do I walk home or not? Whatever. And she leans up against the car. And whose car is it? Gideon's. Of course it is. He offers her a ride again and she takes it. She slips into the car and she's like, ooh, me likey. It's got a rumble to it and she likes the way that rumbles her. She's like, okay, you can drive me home, but like only as far as your house, which is literally 1 minute away. And she's like, the fuck is this? Because when they stop outside the house, she's like, what the fuck's going on? Driving her home anyway. He wants to drive. He's got a new car, a new house. He just signed a multi-million-dollar deal, blah, 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 blah. They chat a bit in this weird, awkward-ass car ride. They chat for a bit about Kate and her paying her dues. Gideon gets all harumph about it. Maeve sticks up for Kate, like, oh, she's doing what she's got to do. And he starts, like, picking on LA, which really, really sets Maeve off. Like, LA is her vibe, her jam, her home. And she gets super mad and, like, let me out of the car, pull over, nah. And he starts laughing like he was just fucking with her, but she is thoroughly not to be fucked with, and she gets out of the car and tells him to fuck off. And, it strikes Maeve as like, oh my god, he's like fucking with me. Oh, I'm so scary. Nobody ever fucks with me. Oh my god. That girl who threw coffee on you sure as fuck fucked with you. She probably fucked with you after that then, because you stared at her like a complete fucking psychopath. So after fucking off from Gideon's car, she goes to another regular spot of hers, which is the Tata Tiki Bar. Try saying that 10 times fast. She gets a drink. She drinks pina coladas there. They're the perfect sugary drink, yada yada. And she starts reading her book again, which we then get to learn is a novella of debauchery. We also learn that the page that her book had fallen and opened to is about putting an egg in your ass. Yeah, it's about putting an egg in your ass. Which apparently she has tried many, many times and has failed. Cannot figure out how to put a whole egg in her ass without it breaking. This is a whole plot point in this book, you guys. Yep. While she's sitting there contemplating egg suppositories, we get a flashback of her and her grandmother sitting at a restaurant after Maeve had like a first-time job that her grandmother hooked her up with. She got pissed off and threw a lamp at somebody. Her grandmother then starts to recognize that Maeve is not this sweet, innocent princess that she looks like, right? She talks about hiding her inner wolf because she recognizes in Maeve an anger she recognizes within herself, and tells her, like, you have to pull the monkey out. You have to be this performative beast. You can't be this raging wolf that you are. Immediately into the next chapter, having presumably gotten wasted at the Tata Tiki Bar the night before, we enter a scene where Maeve is with a director whom she has an arrangement with to relieve herself on him once a month. Yeah. This did not need to be in this book. She does, like, fantasize about killing him and, like, slitting him open with a letter opener during this scene, which gives us a little bit of an insight to her psychosis. And at this point of this book, I'm thinking this is more Marquis de Sade than American Psycho to me. If you've never seen 120 Days of Sodom, I envy you. In the morning, after they've had their arrangement and they have their breakfast, they go down to the pool. And who should be out there? Gideon. And he's swimming in the damn pool. She had spotted somebody swimming in the pool, and it's like, this pool is obnoxiously small for a man that obnoxiously large. And who is in the pool? Gideon's in the goddamn pool. So they get down there. There's an actress that, like, recognizes the director, and he's like, no, not me. She don't see me, right? And he's like, yeah, dumbass, there's only 4 of us out here. Of course she sees you. And he has to go chit-chat with actress lady. And meanwhile, Maeve takes it upon herself to, like, drag out a lounge chair and go read her book and, like, be by herself. Who else should? And of course, Gideon pulls up a lounge chair right next to her and is like, hey, we should fuck. We should have sex, Maeve. I was wrong. I have imagined this. Try again. What did you say? You and I, Maeve, Gideon says. I think we should fuck. Do the horizontal tango. Bone. Plow. Have intimate relations. Die the little death. I think you want to die a little death with me, Maeve. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I'm usually not wrong. Not about this. I prefer to die alone. Which is probably what I would say. Gideon lets her know, like, oh, I had some time and I looked up that book that you dropped and I think I can solve your problems. Besides, I've got a solution to your problem, he says. My problem at present seems to be you. He laughs again, his Adam's apple bobbing, his body taking up more space than I have considered a body could inhabit. Exactly what problem is that, I say? I noticed in your book, your notes at the party. I was curious, I had some free time. I went and got a copy, read it, and I solved your problem. Rage, curiosity, rage. The monkey observes. I breathe. Okay, so tell me then, I say. You've been trying it all wrong. I assume you've been trying it on your own. That's your first problem. That's where I come in. Secondly, I don't know if it's going to work with the raw egg. Not unless you got some kind of clamp in there or something to keep things open, which works for me. But I think you want a more authentic approach. But a soft boil. Not so delicate on the outside, but has a runny yolk. Mwah. Chef's kiss, you know? I do not know, and nor do I want to know. Now, despite all of his phenomenal arguments, Maeve shoots his ass down and is like, no thank you. So Maeve returns home and her grandmother's nurse Hilda is waiting for her. Usually she's done and gone by now. And she breaks the conversation to Maeve that it's time to pull the plug and let her grandmother go. Maeve is not fine with this information. Maeve loses her fucking shit. And in her crazy ass plan to not have Hilda tell the doctors her medical opinion, she lures Hilda to the basement and beats the shit out of her with a mace. Like a prop mace from her grandmother's movie. Beats her to death. We learned that this is not Maeve's first kill. There are other bodies also in the basement. And we get a mention from Maeve that she has killed 3 times before. We don't know who these kills are. We follow her ritual in disposing of the body, which includes drying the bones out in the sun around Halloween decorations. This book takes place around Halloween. She's just pulling all the bones out. I don't know how she got the flesh off, but she's pulling all the bones out into the yard to dry out in the sun amongst the decorations. She's burning Hilda's clothes in a pizza oven. Doing a real thorough job there, buddy. So amidst her decorating, police show up to investigate Maeve's reporting of Hilda not showing up for work. And Maeve is totally covered in blood at this point. She did not bother to wash off at all. And the officers are all like, yeah, these are really realistic decorations. Like, your yard looks great. And meanwhile, they're investigating a missing woman. Girl covered in blood. Whatever. Maeve had called the police herself to report that Hilda hadn't shown up for work. They're like, oh, if anything happens in a few days, we're going to contact your employer, yada, yada. And they think nothing of this girl covered in blood. They fuck off. Maeve is a bit rattled. Maeve's a little bit shooken up after her murder. She wants to call Kate, wants to go out. She opens up her phone, scrolls through her contacts to call Kate. And what does she come across? Kate's hot brother. This is what Gideon typed into her phone. His phone number. And she's like, fuck it. She calls him and accepts his offer to plow. Before she can go get plowed, in the morning she wakes up and there's blood everywhere. And despite the fact she was covered in blood, there's blood all over the house, and that's alarming for some reason. So there's a trail of blood through the house. She goes through the house and it leads up to Lester the cat. Lester is her grandmother's cat, and she's freaking out. She takes the cats to the vet's office, and she's like, cat shitting blood, and she throws the cat into the care of the vets. And after they're testing whatever x-rays, they pull her into the vet office and pull the x-rays up, and they're like, that's a finger. Do you let your cat outside? They get into some weird shit out there. We're gonna take this out. Would you like to take it home? She's like, I would like to take that home, yes. Nobody thinks anything of this human finger being in this cat. What state of decomposition is it in? Did it eat the flesh off separately? Is it just bones together by cartilage? I got a lot of questions, and this finger has literally poked a hole in the cat's intestines, which is why it's shitting blood, and no one cares that there's a finger in there. So as part of this going out plan, Kate and Maeve go to a scrimmage match of Gideon's where he's playing with his new team. And, they're there to root him on or whatever. She's gonna be rooting for him herself real soon. During the game, Kate, opens up and tells Maeve, her first love was Jared, and Jared was Gideon's best friend. He fell off a bridge and died when they were teenagers, and that's why she has a bit of darkness, why Gideon has a bit of darkness in him, is the death of their friend. And I just want to pause right here and say, if you know that your best friend first love was their brother's bestie, and they died, maybe you then don't bang your best friend's brother, because there might be some weird shit going on. I'm just saying. During this scrimmage game, there's a skirmish on the ice. Gideon gets involved and he gets punched in the face. Him jumping in to take the punch wins over his new teammates. Hooray! After the game, the 3 of them go out for drinks into this team bar nearby where there's hockey sluts over at the bar, and it's annoying to Gideon, and Maeve's like, bitches. Kate gets a call back about an audition. She goes and takes the call. While Kate is away on the phone, Maeve notices Gideon has a bloody mouth, his tooth is loose or whatever, and that's appealing for some reason. Now, Kate's call. She comes back, she's all excited. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, I believe is the quote. And she has landed a part in a movie, the one that the director that she banged in the bathroom is directing. Big shocker. Now, Gideon, ever the brother, ever the protective brother, is not happy for her. He's like, this is the fucking same fucking guy that she banged in the bathroom. This is weird. I don't like this. Harump, right? He and Maeve leave the bar and go back. The bar is attached to the hockey ring. They go back into the hockey ring where he has arranged some kind of hockey date. He puts his skates on, goes into the ice rink. There's a literal red carpet rolled out into the ice rink for Maeve to walk out on. And he goads her into taking a swing with the hockey stick and the puck and is like, unleash your rage. I see you. Whatever. Unleash all that rage and just swing away, George. And she smacks the shit out of the puck and makes the goal her first try. This is unbelievably appealing to both Gideon and Maeve, and they do the sex right there on the ice. And they had the option to fuck on said rolled out carpet, and Maeve is like, no, on the ice. And they're banging it out on the ice, all kinds of freezer burnt situation going on. And as they finish up, as they're ready to be done together, very romantic, she reaches into his mouth and rips his tooth out. Insane. Some days later, we catch up with Maeve, who is at the Tata Tea Bar again, and she's reading her book. She's reading her book, and she gets a text from Gideon, hey, rematch? I don't know about you, but if a crazy bitch ripped a tooth out of my mouth, I would not be hitting that again. Absolutely no chance. So after she agrees to go meet up with Gideon again, she notices that there is a doll on the wall. The doll. This one with bulging eyes, 4 of them, and teeth made of what I am fairly sure are human fingernails, are still bearing the remains of chipped red fingernail polish. A single growth protrudes from the top of its head with an oyster fork. The porcelain skin body and swollen where the fork has grown from the skull, pushed its way up out of it, like something to be excised. The doll's body is the plastic body of a toy squirrel. At the attachment point, the body and head are wrapped a few fine strands of human hair, the parts sealed together with blood. It is so beautiful, I do not know what to do with myself. Run, bitch. Next time we catch up with Maeve is a work day. This book is a little bit all over the place. We seem to skip bits of time without any acknowledgement that time has passed. Maeve's walking around the park, and we get a bit of a flashback about her grandmother again. And this was the morning when her grandmother didn't wake up. Didn't disturb her grandmother. Her grandmother had been sleeping past the time she would normally get up for breakfast. But she was like, who am I to disturb her? She wants to sleep in. And she had gone to work. And her grandmother has never woken up again. And this is something that Maeve has yet to forgive herself for. When that happened, she had gone to work. And Kate came up to her and was like, are you okay? And you know when you're really upset and somebody asks you if you're okay and you just break down? That's what happened. Because Maeve was so upset, Kate missed a very good callback that she had a good chance for a very good role. And she didn't go. So we get all those little juicy tidbits. Grandmother didn't wake up. Maeve didn't check on her. Maeve was upset. Kate was there for her and missed her own audition. That's what you can take away from that. While walking around the park, Maeve spots Liz meeting up with Andre, and they've got this lovey-dovey grossness going on, and blah. Assumingly that night, or 3 weeks from now, I don't know, because we don't talk about time in this book, Maeve and Gideon meet up at the Viper Room, where Maeve tells Gideon the story of Stingy Jack, and that is the story where jack-o'-lanterns come from. Now, while at the bar, Maeve sees a poster for a band, and that poster has an iconic picture of her grandmother on the poster where she's dressed as a dead playmate and splayed out over top of her pink Cadillac Mustang, her pink car. And Maeve is not fine. Maeve is mad. Maeve, Gideon, and they've picked up bartender Claire, go back to Gideon's house. They go back to Gideon's house for some drinks and some fun time. Maeve's like, you have toys, and he brings out this weird duffel bag of weird shit and dumps it out. And they ended up playing a BDSM game, which includes the pieces to a Pretty Pretty Princess game. I played Pretty Pretty Princess as a child. And why the fuck does he have that? They tie the bartender to the pool table and are playing games with her, and it starts normal-ish, and then Maeve kind of gets bored and decides she's going to build a house of cards on top of this girl, and if she moves, then there's going to be punishment. If the cards fall, there will be punishment. Her punishment gets creative. She goes and gets a bag out of the corner that she spots, and it's some stuff for Kate, and there's a curling iron in it. And she's like, I always thought this would make a good toy. And she is like violating this girl with a curling iron and threatening to plug it in. And this girl's gagged, and she's like, screaming, and like, yeah. Gideon seems kind of like bored, so Maeve is perceiving that Gideon is bored and like, he's just pretending so that I won't hurt her. This is so annoying. She tells him, I want some grilled cheese. That's my specialty. What? They fuck off, leave this girl tied to a pool table with a curling iron in her vagina, and they go and make grilled cheese and then clean up the kitchen and then return to the basement. You know, Maeve unties Claire. She's like, what the fuck, you crazy bitch? And she's like, what? We, like, did good stuff for you. And she's like, the curling iron. What curling iron? So they gaslight her into thinking there was never a curling iron and let her go. Claire gets the fuck out, and good for her, 'cause so would I. Maeve tries to confront Gideon about his complacency during this curling iron episode, and he's like, oh, I want to show you something. He shows her this room that he's finally finished. She opens up the door, and it is a Halloween-themed fuck dungeon. It's a fuck dungeon, and it is complete with a coffin-shaped bed. Where do you order one of those? She absolutely loves it, and they gets to fucking. They gets to fucking, and the egg makes an appearance. And when he produces the egg, soft-boiled, I arch my back as he inserts one into me, as he swallows the yolk that drips out, exquisitely, devotionally. For hours and hours, I think of nothing except his body, this room, and everything we can do to each other in this room of my dreams. Isn't that sweet? Blech. Kate then part ways after shopping, and Maeve goes to the bookstore where she found the first doll and sees that same weirdo girl lurking there, and she chases her down. The girl leaves a new doll in the vines and hauls ass. Now, what's interesting about this little part of the book is that Maeve was going to go looking for a first edition copy of Fight Club, which is notorious for a character that's not there. This girl is definitely not there. After a failed attempt to chase down this girl, she gets a call from who else? Gideon, and is down to pound, right? So she's down for a fuck session, and she goes to his house. Now, afterwards, they're like cuddling in the coffin bed and start talking about their different tattoos that they have. Gideon has an 8 tally on his side, and while talking about the tattoo, he tells her about Jared's death, his best friend's death, that he jumped, fell from a bridge, hit his head on a rock. Jared had played hockey, and after he died, Gideon kind of assimilated that into himself as a way to remember his friend and also started playing hockey. He tells Maeve that he felt like Jared wasn't very good for Kate. Apparently, like, Gideon and Jared had gotten into a fight the night that Jared had died. Do you need more red flags? After that, they kind of get a weird emotional moment where Gideon tells her she's not alone. Yada yada, blah blah, romance. In the morning, Maeve wakes up, Gideon's gone, he'd order her breakfast, but she ain't got time for that. She sees her phone and realizes she is like hours and hours late for not only work, but for her grandmother's medication. She's super angry with herself. She takes off to go see her grandmother. Bed sores had developed on her because she hadn't been there to like move her around. She's mad at herself, the cat's mad at her, and she calls out of work. Because of this negligence, she feels it's because she's been distracted by Gideon. She sends him a text and breaks up with him. Maeve goes to work the next morning and is confronted by Liz and Andre and is fired. She's like, oh, I just missed one shift. But she's not fired for missing her shift the day before. She's fired because Liz has video of Gideon and Maeve fucking in the hallway. Like in like a corridor going towards the employee tunnels or whatever they're called. And she's like, you were just happened to be in the employee rooms at like 2 a.m. Oh, I forgot something, says Liz. Yeah.
Quick pause here to insert that Kate brings up the dirt she has on Liz. The dirt is that she has kitty pictures, and Liz has consulted Andre and knows she will not get in trouble for them for some fucking reason.
Report of Maeve, Kate quits as well, and they have a little conversation on their way out. Maeve's like, oh, this is the last time we're gonna be friends, I just know it. Maeve goes back home, she tries to talk to her grandmother is comatose and a vegetable and she ain't hearing nothing. In her upset, rage, chaos, Maeve starts ripping all her books off her bookshelf until there aren't very many left, and a literal light shines in onto her bookshelf onto none other than American Psycho. She's like, men get to live their depravity out into the modern world, why don't women? I'ma do that. Maeve goes to the park for the Halloween party one last time. She swipes Cinderella's dress and goes through the park dressed up. Now, in the park itself, they only have villains that evening. There's no other princesses in the park, so Maeve kind of sticks out. And who does she run into? No, not Gideon, not this time. Susan. She runs into that MAGA bitch. Runs into Susan and is like, I destroyed her. I know I did. But Susan's kind of fine. She's like just there with her family, like incognito with a hat on and stuff, and just doing regular shit. And this sets Maeve off big time. So she has been following Liz and Andre around the park with no good intentions at all, and then ends up following them into the employee parking lot where they're like trying to open the door with a fob, which does not work. They're all out of it, and Maeve's like, oh, hi there. As it turns out, they are all out of it because Maeve left drugged donuts in the employee room. Hella drugged with diazepam. Maeve kidnaps them and then pulls an American Psycho Patrick Bateman kind of monologue about a song that she just like goes into hella detail about. So we know this girl has completely flipped her lid. Upon getting home, Maeve's trying to get the bodies out the car. Andre's too big. She's like, well, this guy wasn't my target anyway. She just slits his throat, takes his ears and his other ears. She takes his like mouse ears and then also slices off his ears and fixes them to her mouse ears with ribbon because she's a pretty princess. Mind you, she's doing this all in a Cinderella dress. So Liz kind of starts coming to a Maeve in her Cinderella dress, covered in blood again, with her Andre ears. Maeve starts torturing Liz, like, I'm gonna do all this weird shit to you. I might have just done this anyway, even if you wouldn't have fired me. And who should call? Gideon. And she's like, I told this motherfucker not to call me. Bash, bash, bash. She smashes her phone with a wrench. Bitch, I said don't call me. So along with the phone, she also bashes Liz in the face with the wrench and goes and gets her other implements of torture and gets to torturing Liz. And part of this torture is gonna involve a pipe, a mouse, and acid. Like liquid acid. Liz is a virgin. The pipe is quite large. Something else is quite small. And we're going to use the acid to make something else larger when the flesh dissolves. Then we're going to send the mouse in. Because mouse. You get it? We fade to black on the torture. The next chapter that we get to, Liz is dead. I hope she died fast. Maeve is cleaning up the bodies, disposing of her clothes, yada yada. Now that Maeve has disposed of Andre and Liz, she is out to get this random girl that she's been trying to chase down. She goes back to the spot where the doll has been left and hides there all day long waiting for this girl to show up, which she eventually does. And Maeve pounces on her, chases her down after running through traffic, runs past a homeless man, is like, where'd she go? Who? The girl was never there. It should have been obvious the girl was never there. The girl is Maeve, a smaller version but Maeve. It's like evil Yoda. It's just there. As she's out hunting for this girl, she passes by the Viper Room. Poster goes up on the electronic billboard, and it's the same poster with her grandmother's picture in the background. Maeve's pissed. This band is playing at the Viper Room. Maeve goes. She ends up getting herself on the tour bus, which, as it turns out, she was not invited to hang out on this tour bus. She samurai sworded her ass onto this tour bus. She ran home, got more movie props to do some more murder. Samurai sorted her ass through a person onto this tour bus and is now going to torture the 3 members of the band in various ways. One of them, so the main singer gets his face peeled off, the drummer gets drumsticks shoved in his ear and his dick chopped off little by little. When she turns to the bassist, she breaks and cuts off all his fingers and scatters them around the tour bus. She also bites off his tongue. She collects some teeth from them so that she can put them in the jar at the Tata Tiki Bar, which has a jar of teeth that I forgot to mention earlier. But like, how much weird shit is going on? This one's not important. Also swipes a bag of cocaine from the bus, and she takes little bits of brain from each of the band members and peppers it into her cocaine. And she fucks off. Maeve goes to a new bar where she ends up seeing a news flash of Gideon and Kate have been invited to the chateau party. The chateau is where they were earlier when she saw Gideon by the pool. So she knows they're gonna be at this Halloween party, and she is like livid that they're gonna have dates. And she knows that Kate's gonna be there with Derek, and she don't like Derek because Kate's been showing up with bruises lately. And she don't want anybody near Gideon, even though she don't want him because girls. And there are pictures of Gideon and some random ass actress, and then pictures of Gideon with the actress she saw that day at the chateau. And she's like, well, I know where they're gonna be, I'm getting it going. So in this little news clip, they mention that this girl, this actress, she's been away for a few days. Wonder why. So at the Tata Tiki Bar, every time Maeve goes there, it's like her, the bartender, who I imagine as like the machete guy. I always imagine him to be like Danny Trejo. And then who she calls Johnny is a guy at the end of the bar drinking red wine all the time that looks like Johnny Depp. And she's like, hey, Johnny, wanna fuck? And they get to fucking in the bathroom. Maeve decides to go home and get dressed up for Halloween. She also wants to get her grandmother dressed up and put her makeup back on, set her grandmother right to what she always was. She was always very glamorous. She was never this washed out corpse lady laying in bed. So she goes and puts on her grandmother's costume, the Playmate costume that was from the picture that pissed her off and murdered the band over. So she puts on that. She's got the car. She's got the costume. She's good to go. But she goes to do her grandmother's makeup and she touches her and she is dead. Maeve snaps. She starts Norman Batesing with her grandmother, which I think this part of the book is not really happening because she imagines that she's dressed her grandmother in her finest Chanel blouse and whatever, and is taking her to dinner at the diner. But certainly she cannot be carrying around a corpse in the city. Even on Halloween, this shit don't fly in LA, even if the cops are stupid. She's gotten dressed in her little Playmate costume. She heads off to the chateau's Halloween party. She spots Kate and Derek dressed as Reagan and the priest from The Exorcist. She also sees Derek drug Kate's drink when he goes to get her drinks. And she is like, oh, so he's been drugging her to have rough sex with her, and that's why she's covered in bruises and doesn't know why. So she seduces Derek and is like, let's go to the bathroom, because he likes fucking in bathrooms, as we remember. In the bathroom, she steals his bag of roofies and ends up tricking him into taking 2 of them. Oh, I have fun stuff. He's got a bag of roofies. He takes 2 of them. He's already drank 1 after she tricked him into swapping drinks and ends up drinking Kate's drugged drink. So he's 3 roofies in. Maeve binds him with cable ties that she had in her cleavage to a toilet. She tells him about how she knows that he's been drugging Kate. That's why she's got bruises and doesn't remember this shit. And she sees a chain on his neck, pulls it up. It's a cocaine spoon because Hollywood. And she's like, this is cool. And she starts digging his eyeball out with the cocaine spoon. Now, I don't do cocaine, so I don't know how big a cocaine spoon is. My only reference for this is the end of Cruel Intentions, when Catherine takes her little cross out and they unscrew it and it's got its cocaine little snorty thing. And it's it's like a fucking Barbie ladle. I imagine she's digging his eyeball out with a Barbie ladle, and I am hysterically laughing as I am reading the scene. And I should be disturbed because it should look a lot more like the Hostel scene with the girl's eyeball hanging out of her face and being gross like that, but I'm just dying at the size of this little spoon she's digging his eyeball out with. And she cannot get it all the way out. It's still attached. Hanging there. And she doesn't want to kill him or dig both of his eyes out. because then Kate can't star in the movie if he's not going to direct it if he doesn't have eyes. She like leaves him there. Because she can't kill him or dig out both of his eyeballs, she proceeds to take said cocaine spoon and jam it into his nose until he bleeds. And she leaves him alive, though. And she believes, like, oh, he's so drugged out, he won't remember what happened, and he don't remember me anyway, because he's a prick. Kate then confronts Maeve in the bar, and is like, dude, what the fuck? Everybody's telling me that the dead playmate is making out with Derek, and that's you. He's like, let me explain, blah, blah, and Kate's like, stay the fuck away from me, don't come near me, you never were my friend, you were never looking out for me, if you cared for me, why didn't you give me meetings with all the connections your grandmother has? She's got a point. Maeve is lost and distraught, and she's like Norman Batesing with her grandmother in her brain right now. And while Maeve would never go out to the dance floor, Tallulah would. Tallulah's all about the high life, so she goes and is dancing out on the dance floor, and who should see her? Gideon. Of course he does. She and Gideon leave and go back to her house to do the sex. They be sexing all day until like the next day. The next morning, after more sex, the same two police officers show up at her house and like, oh, we just wanted to, get back to you about that Hilda situation. She's not turned up still. And mind you, this girl is covered in blood and eyeball fluid and whatever other fluids have been going on throughout the evening. And they're like, oh, these decorations look real good. Like, these are the dumbest cops ever written. And while Maeve is talking to the cops, Gideon goes into the basement to get the champagne that Maeve was going to go get before the door knocked. So then we get a flashback to the cellar that earlier, we had a partial flashback where Tallulah takes Maeve down into the cellar. But now we see that in the cellar, she meets her grandfather, who isn't, I don't know if he was alive at that time, but he's bones now. Maeve realizes Gideon has gotten the keys and gotten into the cellar. She goes down and, he's looking around and there's a dead Andre and a dead Liz and like some bones and some more bones and some more other bones because her and her grandmother were both serial killers. And, she's like, well, fuck, this is over. Now, Gideon is trying to talk to her and is like, I knew I suspected something. And she's just crying. He's found out and he'll never love me. Whatever. He tells her, like, I'm not upset, I want to show you something. But she is lost in her own hysterics right now and is like crying. And she gets a jar off the shelf and it's filled with cactus poison. She smears it in his eyeballs and he goes blind and she beats him to death with the mace. The man she loves, she has beat him to death to keep her secret hidden. So as Maeve then goes to start her cleaning up the body ritual, she's like folding Gideon's clothes and there's an envelope in the pants pocket and she takes it out. There are 8 pictures in there. There are 8 pictures of bodies. One of them being a newspaper clipping about Jared, his best friend, having died off the bridge, cracking his head open. And she's thinking, 8 people, 8 victims, 8 on his tattoo. He's a serial killer too. And meanwhile, but while he's got poison in his eyeballs, before she beats him to death, he's like, Maeve, me too. And she's just not listening and she beats him to death. And now she's like, oh my God, he was like me. He's the only person who was ever going to be like me. And she flips the fuck out. She ends up driving to his house, gets his keys, drives to his house, opens up a room that's been locked in the house, and the dead actress's body is in the house. And there's a craft table set up with all kinds of weird shit. And on the table is a new doll. The doll is a body of a wolf with fly wings attached to it. And written in blood on the body, it says, I see you. And that is how the book ends. That book was a lot. So overall, I did really enjoy this book. I thought it was a wicked, wild time. I'm not a spice reader, so, the sexy parts of this book did not appeal to me, especially the debauchery parts, the torture involving the vaginal areas and acid and curling irons. None of that appealed to me. But the overall story of her feeling so alone while somebody is standing right next to her, like pushing away the only people she cares about and freaking out that she's going to lose them faster, but meanwhile she's the one causing Kate to not be her friend anymore, and her grandmother is dying and was always going to die, and she just could never accept that because she WebMD'd something. And then like Gideon's right here, and he's obviously got something wrong with him. He doesn't stop her from almost burning a girl's vagina off with a curling iron, so clearly he's not your run-of-the-mill homie, and she just doesn't see it the whole time. That was so annoying. But like, I did overall enjoy the book. I gave it 3.5 stars. I couldn't give it more than that because of all the like weird debauchery, pacing issues, timing issues with this book, and like the weird coincidences that like the vets didn't care about the finger, the cops don't care about the bones and the blood. Like, it was just kind of stupid and convoluted, but overall a joyous ride, a good time. I did enjoy the book. I don't recommend this book to people who are squeamish, but I do recommend to extreme horror fans and weird lit girlies. I would definitely recommend this book to. Maeve Fly by CJ Leede. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like, subscribe, leave me comments below. Have you read this book? What do you think about it? Will you never read this book? I don't blame you. I'm gonna throw away all the eggs in my house. I would love to know your thoughts on this book. If you like this kind of long review rather than my little quick quips I usually give in my wrap-ups, let me know and I would do some more of these long videos for you. I do have a few more planned out for books that I haven't read yet but will need to do reviews on, so let me know if this is something you'd like to see more of. And until that time, get yourself a grilled cheese, go curl your hair, and I'll see you in the next one.